47, the home of untold stories. This is a time for Morning Cafe. My name is Linda Alela.
And I am Muthoni Minor. Mondays with us here yet again. Monday Blues rocking or swaying us side to side. But anyways, we take it as the day comes.
And of course, a different edition of Morning Cafe today.
Totally.
A little bit special, but in a good way.
Great.
All right, that's to tell you, you see a new face, Muthoni, not pretty much new, a friend of Morning Cafe. She joins me this morning as we take you through the day's business as always.
Yeah.
You know, it's about what the morning looks like. It's about where it is that you are. It's about the politics of the day, education, and so much more. And so, Muthoni, what will you be taking us through this morning?
We'll be highlighting on different sectors, highlighting on education and also on health. Later on, and on the last sector of Morning Cafe. And it's a pleasure to be with you here for the very first time.
I hope you make this your home. I really hope that you make this your home.
It is my home. It is my home.
Morning Cafe, your home. Like I mean, wouldn't you love for us to be doing this with Muthoni? But anyway, she's here. She's taking up the challenge for a moment. But as she says, hers will be a different affair later on the broadcast. Mine will be to take you through the papers as always, how we do it. We take a look at, the news stories of the day. Importantly, we get into the discussion of politics. And today, I'll be having Dr. Barak Muluka. I'll be having Zach Kinuthia, who's also vying somewhere in Kigumo, Murang'a County. And we'll also be having Honorable Philip Kisya, who's the former town clerk of Nairobi. So it will be a very intense conversation. We only have 21 days to the general election.
Yeah.
Time is flying.
It is flying, but anyways, we're here to see how it goes. We have that story, and you will discuss it on later on that newspaper segment.
Without doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll be looking at all that. It's all about
aspects.
politics.
Yeah.
And so I'll be starting this session by, first of all, looking at the papers. I'll take you all the way to 8:30. And then later on, Muthoni will definitely be joining us for that matter of education as well as health. Muthoni, thank you so much for joining me this morning.
All right.
I look forward to a great show.
Totally.
How about take a look at the papers this morning?
All right.
Okay.
Do take it away.
All right. Thank you. And yes, we are here taking a look at the newspaper stories this morning. We have the Standard newspaper as well as the People Daily. Let's briefly look at some of the stories that have been captured on the front page. And the biggest story that is on the Standard newspaper, Chief Minister post, double-edged sword. While it has been, billed as the ultimate prize in making of a coalition, this particular position trying to make sure that they create spaces for individuals that have been loyal to certain, alliances, if not parties. Well, it appears like the chief CS post, as politicians are a little bit worried that it could be the source of a strife for alliances or for different alliances that will take power at the August 9 election. And so we're talking about that very alliance that will take power. Remember, we're talking about the Kenya Kwanza alliance as well as Azimio One Kenya alliance. These proposals were given out the other day before they presented their manifestos to us, telling us just how they intend to make sure that they create a balance within themselves. We have a conglomeration of different parties sitting in these alliances. And so speaking volumes as pertaining to just how they are able to make sure that everyone is incorporated and they are, feeling at home without having to make adjustments on the constitution. Remember, there was that conversation of the BBI that really did not see the light of day, and therefore some of these positions that are being created at this very hour are crucial to us incorporating and perhaps rewarding those ones that have been great loyals, have brought numbers to the different alliances. And so we'll be looking at this just to get to understand of what importance it would be, how instrumental it would be for them to make sure that they create this balance, and how do they make sure then this does not cause more harm than good. What Kenya can learn from Sri Lanka on debt, a question that has been captured on page 4 of the Standard newspaper. We also understand the turmoil that has been witnessed in Sri Lanka and the fact that the people had to say enough is enough, the difficulties in terms of the cost of living, the high debt that the government had incurred, and typically showcasing a picture of what is happening in a majority of the countries, not just Sri Lanka. And therefore a special report by the Standard newspaper newspaper, articulating some of these matters and relating the same to what is happening back at home. Away from it, Biden Saudi tour stirs up a debate, as well as Israel, a story captured on page 28 as pertaining to the international scene. Conversations revolving around these superpowers in terms of making sure that they are able to work together. And so we'll be getting into details of the same to understand what is this that brings this more of a debate as pertaining to that. Away from it, we also have a different story here. Ethiopians too strong for Kamworor, yes, this in regards to the athlete, to the swimming, hopes of winning the men's marathon gold, that is the athletes' gold were dashed yesterday after Kamworor and Kiptum were beaten by Ethiopians to finish 5th and 15th, respectively, as captured on page 40. We still appreciate and celebrate our sportsmen and women athletes in terms of how they are making us proud out there. Difficulties of that run, but all the same, they have represented us. Away from it, let's just look at what the Daily Nation speaks of this morning. And we have the Daily Nation making of an opaque election. This is the biggest story as captured right here on the front page. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission is dancing with fate by keeping open secrets about the whereabouts of, talking about 6,000 new polling stations, as well as tender details about the deal with technology providers Mathematic, and also the fact that the tallying of election results will not be a real-time and digital as promised, since the agency will hugely rely on pictorial rather than alphanumeric data. And so we'll be looking at this in regards to the preparation for the election and just getting to understand whether, well, as the race nears, indeed, as a people, we are ready to get a free and fair process as pertaining to what the IEBC will say, as well as that assurance coming from government. Away from it, the oil barons of Kenya, at a time of this point where we're talking about acute shortage and the biting national crisis, a group of lucky few is making a killing. That is from Kenya's oil crisis. But should they be? And how did the promise of self-sufficiency evaporate so soon from the oil field of Turkana? Story captured on page 7. We'll be looking at that. Remember, it was more or less like a reprieve on Thursday when there was not much of an increase in the prices of fuel, but still again the level at which it is pretty much expensive. Away from that, a subsidy that has been accorded by the government, Kenyans continue to find it hard, first of all, to afford this special commodity, and this then would make adjustments of price across all sectors in terms of the cost of living, above everything, the cost of numerous commodities in the market. That is the big story, or those are the big stories that I have touched on. Away from it, 356,000 teachers have applied for 14,000 teaching slots as advertised. Well, this is a story that has been captured on the back page in the biggest indicator yet of debilitating job crisis, or the yes, as we can see, hundreds of thousands will square it out for just a few openings at the Teachers Service Commission. And so when we look at this, we definitely say that there's so much that needs to be done in terms of us bridging that gap of unemployment, as has been witnessed not just in the country, but across other, fraternities, or across other countries in the global fraternity. And so this perhaps just bringing to the fore, what really needs to be done, or just highlighting what we face at the level of the education sector, and a clear indication that a majority of people have gone to school to study for this, but then again have not been lucky enough to get or to secure a job. For each of the advertised posts, only the top 5 will be shortlisted. This is according to the CS4. This is according to the Ministry of Education, and as well it sets the stage for a stiff recruitment recruitment exercise that will leave hundreds of thousands dejected or rejected from this. And so these are the key stories that have been captured by the papers or in the papers this morning, and therefore we'll take a quick breather and then we'll come back to expound some more on the news stories of the day, and then later on as well introduce the guest. As I have mentioned, we'll be having Dr. Barak Muluka, who's a communications advisor. We'll be having, candidates for Member of Parliament, that is Kigumo constituency in Murang'a County, Zach Kinuthia, as well, a former Nairobi town clerk, that is Honorable Philip Kisia. And so in a bit, after this short break, we come back with what is happening on the roads, but most importantly with the stories of the day.
Despite being visually impaired, he is a jack of all trades. It is our quest to find answers on how to take care of children with special needs and those with disability. You do not need to see musical notes to understand music, but rather to have your soul feel the vibe.
Actually, for us to make a wheelchair, we have to take measurements of the user.
After doing my assessment, I get to know the parent, I get to know the heaviness she's carrying.
Disability comes at different stages of life.
Well, do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga.
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. The next set of millionaires are farmers, as we know agriculture has been and still is the backbone of our economy. As we traverse the different counties to meet different farmers, we ensure to get the story of how they started farming and even how they continue to penetrate the market and overcome the challenges.
Hapa, the reason why nilieka goose na si ducks. Goose, they are very easy to maintain.
A lot of farmers keep on calling, inquiring whether you're supposed to raise some seeds in the nursery or you're supposed to do them directly in the field.
The greenhouse helps us control the temperature because the temperature needs to be between 28 to 32 degrees.
Walk this journey with us every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. It's no secret, construction ain't cheap. But how do we make it affordable? Different individuals are finding ways of cutting down cost by use of pre-stressed slabs other than reinforced concrete, recycling plastics to make pavers.
The brick is stronger, it's cheaper, and it's lighter.
And recycling wastewater in your household.
What happens to my waste from the wash?
Welcome back, and straight as you can see, my screen says that we need to take a look at what is happening on the roads. Very, very important. As you can evidently see, there is really not much of red bits. That should tell you that we really do not have much of traffic this morning across the different parts of Nairobi or the different roads of Nairobi. We start off by looking at what is happening on Thika Road and down from these parts of Githurai, going all the way to TRM, to the Garden City Mall and to the Kenya School of Monetary Studies, Ease, as well down to Muthaiga and to Pangani. There is not really traffic at any point apart from these bits of Pangani, which is common because we have different vehicles getting into the city, but it's not so bad this morning. Being a Monday morning, I think in that case they will have, the Thika Road is not so bad. And down to these sides of Juja Road, as you can evidently see, as you get from this bit of Outer Ring Road, there's not much of traffic around these areas of Dandora, and then connecting to Juja Road, some tenets of traffic on a very small bit, but it doesn't look so ugly, and therefore there's no cause for alarm. If you're coming from these sides of Komarok and you connect to Juja Road and also along the Outer Ring Road, somewhere through this connection is where you'd get some tenets of traffic, but doesn't look so bad. So this is around the Moi Forces Academy area where you find some bits of traffic snaking a bit, but it's not looking as bad, and so wouldn't get you, if using that direction late than, you know, more than 10 minutes or thereabout. And then we also have the other parts. Let's see whether there's another part that would be important. The northern bypass on this other side is looking all good, as well as Kiambu Road, going all the way down, getting to this pit where you connect to Thika Road. It does not look so bad this morning. Kiambu Road is all clean from the northern bypass as well. This other side, the Nairobi Expressway, is clean. Let's look at what is happening on the other roads. The Nyayo National Stadium, as you connect to Langata Road, or as you're coming out from Langata Road, the traffic is not so bad this morning. As you can evidently see, down the southern bypass is pretty much of an ease, as well as after you get to this level of the Nyayo Stadium, you want to look at what is happening on Mombasa Road. Mombasa Road this morning is also not so bad to and from, that is the city, apart from these areas of Imara Daima, where it's a bit, clogged up. And therefore, if taking Mombasa Road around that area, you would experience some bit of a delay. But then again, it's slowly picking and, pretty much becomes an ease on the other sides. And down to these sides of the southern bypass as well is not bad, and connecting us to these sides of Embakasi Airport Road, not really much of traffic, as you can evidently see, apart from these yellow bits that would get you a bit of a delay or get you a bit delayed. The eastern bypass as well is not looking ugly this morning. This is the eastern bypass, not as notorious as you would find it around these areas of Utawala. Tenets of traffic, you will always be there, and those are the key roads really that would get us asking what is happening. Therefore, we say in the event that there's anything that happens around where it is that you are, kindly keep us up to tabs. This is Kangundo Road, tenets of traffic. That one is pretty much expected. The Outer Ring Road, as I have said, there are areas where you find bits of traffic, but it does not look so bad as well. Juja Road and these areas of Ngong Road are not so much of traffic. These areas of Lavington and taking James Gishuru down from the ABC place, that is Wayakiwe, it is all looking good this morning. So as I have said, really we do not need to delve much on that. In the event that there's anything else, I'll be here to make sure that you are updated. Now let's pick the stories that have been prepared by the editorial team. And the Agano presidential flag bearer, that is David Moore Wahiga, has cautioned the Kenyans against having confidence in the opinion polls released by different research companies. Moore, claiming the findings are manipulated and misleading, he further urged the electoral body to remain firm in its mandate and to avoid being intimidated by a section of politicians. This as Andrine Kilemi reports.
Speaking after a church service at Christian Foundation Fellowship in Kiambu County, Agano Party presidential candidate Wahiga Moore warned Kenyans against having confidence in the polls released by different research companies in the country.
And these pollsters, don't believe these pollsters. They are sponsored. They can't even give me my 1 point. They are discriminatory. Even in school, even if you got 1%, it was written 1%. Why are they not showing even if I have 1%? I know I am ahead. They'll be surprised on 10th and 11th when things are announced, because Wakenya wanasema we need a new broom. Safari hii lazima tubadilishe kabisa.
Mwaure further urging the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission IEBC to remain firm in its mandate and to avoid being shaken by the ongoing political waves.
I want to urge IEBC also to be strong. You be strong, don't agree to be swayed. Some of the people who are accusing you or who are using you like a tennis ball, they have been there in 2017, they were there in 2013, they were players in the same camp, and we know what happened. Be focused. If when I am declared and I win, please declare that David Mwaure Wahiga is the president of Kenya.
The Agano Party leader also affirmed that he and his running mate will be participating in the upcoming presidential debate scheduled for Tuesday this week and next week consequently.
We are not afraid. Kenyans need to hear us debating and saying what we have. We have a lot to offer. It's only that the problem has been that the playing field has not been equal. Some of our competitors are using government money and taxes. Others, we know they are sponsored. It is clear, Kenyans don't have to be told. You can see who is behind them. But you can also see that the playing field is not equal.
The Agano Party campaign trail is this week expected to tour Nyeri and Murang'a counties in hunt for votes. Andrine Kilemi, TV 47.
Now, thieves broke into a Catholic church in Old Joro Orok sub-county and made away with equipments worth over 170,000 shillings. According to officials from St. John, the Evangelist Catholic Church within Igwamiti Parish, the robbers gained entry to the church using crude weapons.
It was a Sunday that was supposed to be like any other Sunday for worshippers at St. John the Evangelist Catholic Church in Old Joro sub-county in Nyandarua West. But what they didn't know is that thieves came in at night and made away with church equipment. A keyboard, amplifiers, mixer, speakers and other assortment of goods are missing.
Kisha nikienda kuchukua machindi niende nianze kujitengeneza ndio ibada ianze, nikapata mlango wa sacristy umefunguliwa. Hapo ndio ilinistuka na nikatoka mbio kwenda kwa chairman ambapo ni karibu na church. Hapo ndio nilienda nikamwambia tukakuja naye tukapata ni kweli mlango ulikuwa umevunjwa na kukaiba speaker mbili pamoja na mashine.
Cha jabisha ni kwamba hata ile kioo ya kujiangalia ile inatumiwa na father ama sisi, hata hiyo imebebwa.
Tulishangaa hata kabla tujaanza ibada, kila mtu alikuwa akikuja anaona kweli mwenye aliiba alifanya kitu cha ajabu, kuingia kanisani kuchukua hizo vitu na kazi nzito aliyofanya kufungua hizo vitu.
Preliminary investigations revealed that the thieves could have used master keys to gain entry into the church and safe where the equipment are normally stored. The equipment had been procured in May this year through a donation from a well-wisher.
Ile dhamana ambayo tumehesabu ni dhamana ya shilingi 1,170. Hiyo ndio dhamana ya hizo vitu. Kwa hivyo nikiwa kama mwenyekiti, ningeomba wale wamechukua hiyo vitu, tafadhali waturudishie. Manake ni vitu za nyumba ya Mungu.
Jambo hilo nisikia limenifinyiria sana. Na siamini kwamba kuna mtu anaweza iba nyumba ya Mungu. Na naweza mwambie huyu mwenye aliiba arudishe kwa kuwa ni laana.
Tunagojea upelelezi uendelee. Na mimi najua sababu serikali iko na mkono mrefu. Tuna uhakika hawa watu watapatikana.
The Sunday service was delayed as church leaders and the congregation tried to come to terms with the robbery. Investigations into the incident have begun. Sharon Baranga, TV 47.
Well, the politics of land is still rampant in the coast region, even as the government continues to issue thousands of land title deeds to squatters. Land activists now claim that there is no political goodwill in advocating for land rights, which each successive government are giving the matter lip service, as Beatrice Batare reports.
During the the 2017 general elections, the Jubilee Party, led by President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy, Dr. William Ruto, promised to eradicate the squatter problem and end land politics. However, the issue still remains unsolved despite processing more than 500,000 land title deeds for residents.
Ile settlement trust fund imechaji mashamba hayo kufikia hivi sasa imefika 300,000 inaelekea 400,000. Watu wangu wa Magarini hawawezi kuzilipia hizo shamba na wanahofia watanyang'anywa mashamba hayo na warudi kuwa maskota.
La ardhi mara nyingi limetumika kama kigezo wakati wa uchaguzi, na ningependa kuongea na viongozi wenzangu walio hapa hivi leo tuweze kutafuta suluhu ya kudumu katika hili swala la ardhi, isiwe kila mara wakati wa uchaguzi linatumika kama kigezo kuweza kufanya kampeni.
The land equation has come back this year with campaigns to woo residents in the coast region, with all political players banking on it to boost their vote base.
Ninajua swala nyeti hapa. Shida nyinyi mko naye, kwanza mmeongea mambo ya mashamba. Ndio. Mambo ya ile kodi. Ndio. Ambao unatozwa akiwa shamba. Hiyo tutafuatilia mbali.
Mr. Raphael Mzungu Ngoma, a director with the Institute of Participatory Development, Kulamusana, however, stated that the land laws were being misused by politicians for their own selfish gains rather than ending land problems.
Swala la political goodwill ni swala zito kidogo, kwa sababu swala la siasa limekuwa always watazungumzia kwamba wanataka watatue tatizo hili la ardhi, lakini kutoka uhuru mpaka leo swala hili limebaki tu la kisiasa na halijaweza kutatuliwa.
Mombasa Governor Hassan Joho, who presidential candidate for Azimio Raila Odinga said will appoint head of lands docket during a campaign in Kilifi, said that he will return acres of Taita Taveta land owned by some politicians, warning that land grabbers will be tackled.
Mimi nitakuwa waziri wa mashamba. Na nataka kutoa onyo hapa. Kama kuna mtu yoyote uwe watoka kokote na umeramba shamba ya watu wa hapa, ujue chuma chako kimotoni, my friend.
Politicians have now been urged not to only buy support from voters, but also live up to their promises after the elections. Reporting for TV47, my name is Beatrice Watare.
Thanks, Beatrice, for that. Mombasa County ODM candidate for the gubernatorial seat, Abdul Swamad Sharif Nasser, has asked Kenyans to avoid arguments that may spark violence between different ethnic groups in Kenya. Speaking during a Swahili culture exhibition hosted by Atlanta-based Kenyan content creators Jamila Kizondo at Mamangina Waterfront, the Mvita legislator emphasized on the importance of embracing cultural diversity as the key driving force to unity. The story was produced by Andre Juma and voiced by Sharon Baranga.
In a Swahili culture exhibition hosted by Atlanta-based Kenyan content creators Jamila Kizondo at Mamangina Waterfront, the Mvita Member of Parliament Abdul Swamad Sharif Nasir promised to revive the tourism sector in the region.
Mombasa, hii tamaduni tunayoona hapa sasa hivi ni tamaduni asilia, kabila ambazo kwamba zilioko hapa asilia. Na mimi najua katika wakati huu, hususan huu wakati wa siasa, kwa bahati mbaya hupita kipepo kile, ikawa wakati huu wa siasa kila mmoja akaanza watu kuzungumza lugha za kuanza kuleta kejeli na tofauti za kikabila.
The exhibition brought together different stakeholders who in one voice promised to support Nasir. Nasir is set to face other competitors including UDA's Hassan Omar, among other candidates to replace the incumbent Ali Hassan Joho.
Tukishaweza kuchukua uongozi kwa niaba yenu katika mipangilio niloweka, kuanzisha utamaduni na kuanzisha utalii wa hapa mjini, utalii wa Kenya, na panapo majaliwa ni utalii wa dunia nzima watu kuweza kufika.
The lawmaker asked locals to embrace unity despite cultural, religious and racial diversity, pledging that if elected as the governor, he will ensure a periodic cultural celebration in Mombasa County that is considered one of the most cosmopolitan regions in the country.
Watu wajihisi ya kwa Mombasa ni ya kila mtu na kila mmoja ajihisi ya kwa hapa ni kwake, kwa sababu Mombasa ni chimbuko ambalo kwamba kila mmoja anafaa kujihisi ya kwa hapa ni nyumbani.
Well, more on politics. Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance presidential candidate Raila Odinga has completed his 2-day campaign tour in Nairobi County, where he promised to improve the country's poor economic status if he is elected as the 5th president of this nation. As our reporter Mike Kagungo reports, Odinga has urged Kenyans to vote for aspirants under the Azimio ticket so as to give his government the upper hand once he is elected into office in August.
For 2 consecutive days, Raila has led his presidential campaigns while seeking support from Nairobi residents and urged them to vote for Azimio candidates in the forthcoming August 9th elections, in what he termed as strengthening the party in making government decisions after the elections.
So mimi sitaki kwenda kule kwa State House na hapa chini niko na adui yangu. Mpaka mnituma mimi kule juu na wanajeshi wangu. Sawa sawa? Mkiweka wale maadui yangu pale, nataka nifinywe. Nataka mpaka muweke askari yangu katika bunge. Vile vile kwa MCA.
With only 22 days to the elections, Raila has promised to fulfill his manifesto once Kenyans give him the opportunity, while calling out his opponents on what he termed as their fake promises.
Yeye amesahau ati aliahidi watoto laptop ndani ya miezi 6, sio? Sasa wale watoto ambao aliahidi laptop wamemaliza darasa ya 12. Anawapatia wheelbarrow. Na natakana wawe digitali. Je, hiyo ni ungwana kweli? Sio ni ujinga? Ni ujinga? Bado anazidi kutoa ahadi zingine. Anasahau ya kwamba aliazidi kazi milioni 1 kila mwaka.
The former Prime Minister has also promised to improve the economic structures in Nairobi, supply of water to every businesses and households, as well as free education once he is elected.
Kuanzia mwaka ujao, watoto wetu wote, kuanzia nursery, primary, secondary, tertiary mpaka chuo kikuu, hakuna karo tena.
Huyu baba mwenye mnamuona hapa, huyu baba atawaletea free secondary education. Baba ataleta free university education. Kazi mtaani itakuwa ikiendelea. Kila kijana, kila mama, kila mbaba katika mwisho wa mwezi atapata shilingi 6,000.
In what looked like a call for serious business, his running mate Mother Karua asked the Nairobi gubernatorial aspirants on the Azimio ticket Polycarp Igathe to be aware that he won't be allowed to go against the people's needs if he is elected.
Igathe, hawa watu wakikupatia kura zao uwe gavana wa Nairobi. Hatutaki kuja hapa kuona taka tena.
Na vile vile nimeamrisha gavana huyu mtarajiwa, watoto watapata chakula kwa shule. Nitazidisha pesa ambayo inatoka kule juu na kuja hapa chini mashinani kutoka 15% hadi 35%.
Odinga held his rallies in Lang'ata, Kibra, Embakasi East, Mathare, Kasarani, Roysambu and Embakasi North sub-counties.
With campaigns reaching fever pitch and 22 days to August 9th general election, Odinga has completed his 2 days tour of Nairobi County, traversing nearly all 17 constituencies in a bid to seal the 50% plus 1 equation. Mike Kagongo, TV 47, Nairobi.
Kenya Kwanza presidential flag bearer, Deputy President William Ruto, has called out the National Police Service, asking them not to be used politically, and that is ahead of the August 9 polls. And as TV47's Moige William reports, Ruto, in his second day tour at his boss now arrived, that is, Ruto in his second day tour at his boss, now rival Uhuru Kenyatta's home county of Kiambu, promised to relook into the working conditions and salaries of the police if elected as the 5th president.
For the second day, Deputy President William Ruto and his team continue their campaigns in Kiambu County. The Kenya Kwanza caravan snaking through Juja, Gatondo South, Gatondo North and Thika constituencies. Yet again, the differences between President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy played out. This time around, Ruto picking issues over the management of the National Police Service.
Hawa askari wetu wa polisi hawatafanyishwa tena kazi ya siasa. Askari wetu wa polisi watakuwa na heshima. Watakuwa na kazi ya muhimu ya kuhakikisha kwamba kuna usalama wa kutosha katika taifa letu la Kenya.
Tunajua mnatumiwa vibaya na poleni sana. Hakuna mtu ataumiza nyinyi. Hakuna mtu atachukulia nyinyi hatua kwa sababu mnatumiwa vibaya na nyinyi ni watu ya uniform. Mtulie, baada ya tarehe 9 hakuna chief atatumiwa vibaya tena. Chief atafanya ile kazi ameandikiwa.
Still at it, the second in command made a handful of promises if elected and ascends to power. Among them improving the terms of services and salaries for officers serving in the National Police Service.
Tumesema ndani ya siku 100 tutabadilisha terms of service of our policemen and women. Tuwapatie equipment ya kutosha, tuwapatie magari ya kutosha na tuwapatie allowance ya kutosha. Kazi yao ni moja, kulinda maslahi ya Wakenya, maisha ya Wakenya, biashara ya Wakenya.
Echoing Ruto's sentiments, leaders accompanying him called on the National Police Service to exercise fairness as the poll date draws nearer.
Hakuna mkatanusu. Tarehe 9 mwezi wa 8, hakuna handshake. Na wale watu wanajifanya wanatupiga hapa, ati wanatufunza kuheshimu Uhuru Kenyatta. Tuwaambie watajua hawajui.
Yule mzee wa kitendawili anatuambia atashukisha bei ya unga. Na anajua sababu ya bei ya unga kupanda ni yeye na serikali ya handshake.
Niwaachie huyu mtu ya kitendawili. Niwaachie huyu. Nimalizane na yeye. Ama mnasemaje?
It is not the first time Deputy President William Ruto and the Kenya Kwanza team have lamented while making claims of the police allegedly being used to settle political scores.
And the Kenya Kwanza Brigade, led by Deputy President William Ruto, have concluded their two-day tour in a bid to consolidate votes from Kiambu County. Mwige William, TV47, Kiambu.
All right, and yes, we now shift gears from looking at the news stories. And we get to introduce the guests this morning. Dr. Barak, is it that bad?
You know, there's a corona doing the rounds, but I will remove
the mask.
The mask,
All
although
right.
it's important to wear masks. I've seen Kenyans are not wearing masks.
Oh yes, it's very, very important that you reminded this. COVID is still around, and it's also a cold season. So make sure that you take care of yourself. Dr. Barak Muluka, Communications Advisor, thank you so much for creating time to be with us this morning. As well as Zach Kinuthia. Zach Kinuthia is Member of Parliament candidate, Kigumo, that is in Murang'a County. As well, Mheshimiwa, thank you for creating time this morning. Siasa, as always, it's important we know what is happening on ground. In a bit, we'll also be joined by Honorable Philip Kisia, former Nairobi Town Clerk. That's a minute or thereabout. But Siasa za Kigumo?
Our pleasure is all mine first for being welcome here.
Thank you.
And my pleasure too. My brother, Daktari Muluka, I always was watching him there as we are discussing. And it is difficult to discuss things with a friend virtually.
Right.
Because this camaraderie of being together sometimes hits the debate. And therefore I'm happy to see him here, as well as the former town clerk, Philip Kisia. I want to pass my greetings to everybody watching us this morning from the comfort of their seats or their beds or wherever they are, to say good morning as we interact. And Siasa is not bad.
Siasa is not bad.
But it has been very cold this week and muddy. But I can tell you, people are bracing all the cold and all the mud to come and hear the message.
Oh, yes.
I do not know how it is other areas, but for us now that we have no presidential candidate in Mount Kenya, It has now.
What do you mean you don't have a presidential candidate in Mount
We don't have
Kenya?
a serious. Maybe perhaps I should.
That is misplaced still. How can you say that he's not serious?
Yeah, we do not have a serious presidential candidate.
What makes you say the candidate is not serious? That is misplaced. Dr. Barak, proceed. Counter that on behalf of Wahiga Mwaure.
You see, my friend Zach Kinuthia here is a candidate somewhere in Murang'a.
Yes.
He's trying to go to parliament, and there are people who are looking at him, and they have been saying things like Zach is not a serious candidate. So I think this kind of prejudice could be very dangerous. The fact that someone's name is on that ballot paper is serious enough. Then unserious ones have not made their way to those papers. So I think you may have to
or perhaps he needs to tell us what does he mean when he says we do not have a serious one. What would amount to seriousness?
Well, when I said that we do not have a serious candidate, I meant from Mount Kenya. I meant that by the fact that the two presidential candidates of both coalitions have been seasoned politicians, gives them a head start. The other two have not been politicians, and that is why they are not. That's what I think.
Okay. My thinking is a politician.
Agano Party is not new.
He has run in Molo. He has run.
Has he won?
He didn't win. You have also run. You didn't win.
I won 2 elections and lost one.
You are a serious candidate.
Yeah, but it's important for me to say in my life.
So the year he didn't win one. Was he not serious?
Yeah, but that's true. I was not serious.
Yeah, all these people are serious. They're all serious candidates. Even Bahati, who gave up his
bid
in Waraka, is a serious candidate.
He hasn't given up, by the way.
Even Mr. No, I saw him giving up.
Let's use the best example that we have on set. Even Honorable Philip Kisia, who?
Kisia here, who wanted to
hold it. Yeah.
I'm a serious person.
Hold it, Senior. You have to be mic'd, right? Remember, we want to have you mic'd in a bit until we get into that.
He's a serious person, Philip Kisia. He wanted to run in Westlands. The fact that he changed his mind does not make him unserious. All these people are serious. And I think let us not prejudice the electorate against anybody, against Wajakoya, against Mwaure, against William Ruto, against Raila Odinga. They are there, they're in the mix. Let them put their best foot forward each, and let the people decide. Ken Matiba used to say, let the people decide. So there's a serious candidate whose roots are in the mountain. He has a home in Molo and another home in Lam and a fourth one in Nairobi.
And let's talk about the numbers. What will determine whether these candidates are serious and perhaps vindicate you at this very point and even after the poll? Is it too early to speak of numbers, Dr. Barak, before we have Philip come in? Is it too early to say that, perhaps they have polled below 5%, they have polled above 5%, and therefore in this case consider them as those ones that are really not holding, or they do not really enjoy the chances of clinging the power?
I have a lot of respect for opinion polls. However, as I have said before, I have very low regard for opinion polling in Kenya. And I have said this because I was there personally when two pollsters, one after the other, came to a political entity that I was affiliated with some years back in some election. And they were saying, we can move you from this percentage to this percentage and eventually to that percentage through a certain timeline and through certain budgetary considerations. And because of that alone, I do not trust pollsters in Kenya. And I'm seeing the same pollsters under different guises today, playing around with numbers and figures. I don't believe them. I'm going to wait until the day comes and Kenyans are going to decide. On the basis of that, we should give everybody, Zach Kinuthia, Philip Kisia, David Mwaure, Wahiga, Raila Odinga, William Ruto, the whole lot should be given the benefit of the doubt.
They have called it a two-horse race. However much we would want to bury our heads in the sand, this is, reminded to us constantly. Can we as well agree to what Barack says, that it is only after the polls have been conducted that we can know whether indeed the question of the numbers really would lock others out and would let others in?
Barack is a very good friend of mine. In fact, I had the pleasure of having some very good time with him over the weekend. But that's between me. That's between.
You've not seen him.
That's between me and him.
I've not seen you for 3 years.
So I agree with him to a certain extent that any candidate who has been cleared by IEBC is a serious candidate. Anybody who has been cleared, because there are costs even to get to that stage. So you cannot, dismiss them. But to be very honest with ourselves, and maybe, as Barack has said, when we start counting the votes, then we shall separate men from boys. Okay? And it has happened. Even it happens in more advanced jurisdictions like America and Europe, that you have those fringe candidates and you have the serious candidates. I don't think it will be different in our case. But I can say, if I'm talking about the presidential elections, from what I'm seeing, we, of course, have two front runners. We have His Excellency, the Prime Minister, Raila Odinga, and of course, on the other side, we have His Excellency, the Deputy President. And the other one from my village, Wajakoya. Wajakoya has really impressed me. Oluchiri. Because this man, from nowhere, shooting to about 4% is no mean achievement. Right. So, Wajakoya, whatever you are, congratulations, keep it up, and give these men a run for their money. But I can say with a lot of certainty that this is a two-horse race, and we shall see that come 9th of August this year. In Zach's words, that Wajakoya will take position number 3. He's going to give them a run for their money?
I told you he'll get 1 million votes. And 4%, going by what we have registered, is 800,000. Okay. There's still time to make 200,000.
For him.
And I said, I think I was the first person to claim it, and I was trolled by trollers all over the social media. And I still insist, because his message is populist, and his message is not meant to just capture those who are interested by utopia. Even the real serious people who smoke bang in serious offices, in the corporate, in government, and in academia. There are serious bang smokers all over the country, and this is a prohibited drug. Okay?
Yes. It is prohibited, and they say theirs is not going to be about the question of smoking.
No, it's not what he's saying.
It is what
I would want to tell him. It is what they are understanding.
Okay.
If I got Professor Wajakoya here, I would tell him his message, as good as is intended for him in terms of medical marijuana and whatever. People are not understanding that. There is something which you say, and between what you say and between what they understand, a whole lot of happening in between there.
But when it comes to the question of governance, will it be about what people understand, or it will be about the laws that have been placed there too?
It is always what people understood. Because what Raila is saying now, what Ruto is saying now, what Wajakoya has said, what they mean is not necessarily what is understood. Okay. Because as I was asking him on the fridges, people are saying that they are going to do X, Y, and Z. But when they assume power, what people understood versus what is possible. And I'll give you a good example. Any president saying that they are going to lower fuel, any presidential candidate saying that they are going to significantly reduce the cost of living and bring flour from what it is now 220 to 50 or 100, it is not possible, not in 100 days. It is not even possible in 200, 300, 400. It's not
Is that
possible in a year.
to politely tell Kenyans that, just get used to the tough times and that no adjustments would be
I think so. If I was an advisor to these coalitions, presidential candidates, I would tell them to be moderate in their expectations, especially if you think you will win. Towards the winning end, please under promise but over deliver, because there will be that time after we win.
Philip, some bit of serious revelations there, and I say revelations because Zach has sat, in government. You as well, have managed the presidency of Nairobi. Very, very important that we look at some of the things that are possible in those 100 days that they speak of, and generally in future. The tough times. Is Zach politely telling the people of Kenya that really there's no hope after all, that it will always be shooting up, and we might need to make adjustments and know how we just manage ourselves?
Now, first of all, let me agree with Zach, but not wholesome. Because, in a campaign, it's like when you are making an attempt to date, and these two gentlemen, I'm sure, have dated before.
Never dated.
And they are still making attempts.
Celebrate.
That one I didn't know.
Well, at least he's here to tell us.
Yes. So, you see, you can never lower your expectations. You raise the bar. You give people hope. You tell them that the sky
That's
is the
the language
limit.
of politics, yeah?
That is the language of everything. Even when you're dating. You don't bring your bar below. You keep it very high. Because if you do that and your competitor is overselling or, coming up with better marketing programs, you'll be wiped out. So you must give this very glossy picture that things are going to be better under my administration. Okay?
So who's fooling who in
as
this
whether
case?
you deliver or not, that's a separate matter. But let me come back to government. How does government function? A government is not an individual. A government is a huge wheel. And it takes time to turn. Those of you who have worked in government will understand. It turns like a turbine, slowly. You can't just come and say, now you want to change gear. It doesn't work that way in government. Number two, government works with budgets. There's a budget for a fiscal year. Number three, government works with programs. When you come in, of course, you have to sit down with the technocrats and see what you can tweak. Okay? Is this one possible? They'll tell you this one is not possible, and they'll give you reasons. And finally, and most importantly, His Excellency, the late Emeritus Mwai Kibaki, came up with Vision 2030, which is a shared vision for this country. Okay? And that is the document that Kenyans and Kenyan government are using. Uhuru has come. The reference is to the same document.
Yeah.
The only thing that is changing are the tactics on how to deliver the vision. Raila comes in as the fifth. The reference point will not be anything else. Even those manifestos that have come up with must align themselves to Vision 2030.
Why must? Why must? And I think we need to come to that.
That is a document that has been engraved in regulations. It's supported by Vision 2030. It's supported by a secretariat, which is recognized in law. It is a shared vision. So it is not about Zach or about Barack or about Philip. It's about us. That is Philip, what we wanted.
All right, Philip, let's take a quick break and then we come back to Barack perhaps and stand that some more, because then we want to understand how much stamina or capability or power is accorded to a president once they are sent to power to sometimes overturn some of these structures that have been there, policies that have been there, as well as documentation that is set to be the guideline or the blueprint to where the country is headed after this break.
Despite being visually impaired, he is a jack of all trades. It is our quest to find answers on how to take care of children with special needs and those with disability. You do not need to see musical notes to understand music, but rather to have your soul feel the vibe.
Actually, for us to make a wheelchair, we have to take measurements of the user.
After doing my assessment, I get to know the parent, I get to know the heaviness she's carrying.
Disability comes at different stages of life.
How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga.
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. The next set of millionaires are farmers, as we know agriculture has been and still is the backbone of our economy. As we traverse the different counties to meet different farmers, we ensure to get the story of how they started farming and even how they continue to penetrate the market and overcome the challenges.
Hapa, the reason why nilieka goose na si ducks. Goose, they are very easy to maintain.
A lot of farmers keep on calling, inquiring whether you're supposed to raise some seeds in the nursery or you're supposed to do them directly in the field.
The greenhouse helps us control the temperature because the temperature needs
to align themselves to some of the promises and some of the projects that had already been started by the previous government to just try and see whether they get to make them better. But in most cases, there are instances where you'll find leaders would want to come in and make a total turnaround. Wahiga Maura will tell you he wants to fagia completely and bring a different system altogether. Just how much power does the president that comes in have to perhaps overturn some of these policies that are already set in the event that they feel like this would not work towards making a better Kenya?
Yes, thank you very much once again. First, allow me to draw our attention to the story on page 16 of the Daily Nation. It's actually an op-ed by Kaltum D. Guyo, who says big to offer very little to Kenyans. And these kinds of opinions should not be ignored.
Let's be fair, Barak, to Kisia. He's looking and is wondering, why am I not given a favor?
He's my younger brother.
So he
from the old days when we were growing up, he's used to...
he has to wait until the bigger brother...
Yeah.
has finished.
Yeah.
Yeah, we cannot ignore these kinds of commentaries. In fact, it's our ignoring of such commentaries that leads to the kinds of challenges that do catch up with us in the fullness of time. Philip Kisia is right, and President Daniel Arap Moi told us that many years ago, that when you are in courtship, you overpromise, you tend to put on a certain face, and it happens both sides of the divide of the courtship until when the marriage has begun, and you start saying, oh, I didn't know you were like this. Where is the gentleman who courted me? Where is the girl? Where is the girl I courted you? And where is the girl I married? Where is the man I married? But a good president is a president who works in an environment that they recognize has got institutions. It has got laws, it has got rules, it has got regulations, and it has got checks and balances. And our constitutional democracy recognizes those notions of checks and balances. So there are things which the president will do, citing certain instruments of law as being the sources of the authority of that which that president wants to do or is doing. We have sat here in the past And I questioned, which I still do, and the courts agreed with me, that when President Uhuru Kenyatta was gazetting the BBI thing, he did not have any source of law. That he was saying that under the powers conferred upon me by Article this and that of the Constitution and Section this and that of this statute of Parliament of the Republic of Kenya, I hereby do the following. And because of that, you have had these recurrent setbacks. Those who are making promises about what they want to do in the future must be careful that they are telling us things that they will deliver. As Deputy President Ruto keeps on saying himself, wajinga walikwisha Kenya hii. And we are going to hold you to account. Vision 2030 talks about making Kenya an industrializing second world economy. Now, when you look at us today, do you see that we are industrializing? Do you see that we are becoming a second world economy? Do you rather see that we are becoming hungry by the day? There's no food. Yesterday, I was walking in the shops to familiarize myself with the prices, and they are outrageous. Things that were costing 400 shillings, like cooking oil, 3 liters. It was costing less than 400 shillings at the start of this year. It's now hitting 1,000 shillings. You look at the cost of flour, it's gone right through the roof. The cost of the maize that we call gorogoro. Gorogoro is that tin, of 2 kilograms. At the start of this year, it was 40 shillings. Today, it is 200 shillings, which means that at the start of the year, you could buy with 200 shillings 5 gorogoros. Now with 200 shillings, you buy 1. It means that the food that you used to, the money you used to spend on food a year ago, 6 months ago, for 1 week, now you spend in a day. Now you don't start becoming an industrializing second world economy when people cannot even eat. So Vision 2030 has been good for conversation, but it has not been good for practice. We have not begun industrializing. Instead, the cost of energy has seen industries closing down and shifting to other parts of the country. Finally, Vision 2030, as our point of reference, is myopic. It's being extremely short-sighted. It's just here. People like in China, they are talking about their visionary agenda 200 years from now, and they are in the process of implementing it. What is their agenda? 200 years from now, China sees itself as ruling the whole world, not just from a distance, but by being present. They're building infrastructure. They're getting you to sign away your blue chip securities and properties. They are expecting that in another 50 years' time, they are going to have infiltrated the whole world, the global community, and they are going to begin taking over. Our own vision is talking of 80 years from now. You need to be extremely short-sighted. If President Moi,
I need to follow up with the, with a question as we also listen to what you say. This Vision 2030 crafted under the demands of Sustainable Development Goals that are hugely about the global fraternity. So how then does it limit us to?
It was not. It was under the Millennium Development Goals.
Millennium Development Goals and SDGs.
SDGs came the other day, and SDGs are looking towards 2056, 2065.
Do they not align with this that is in the vision?
They are much broader than that. and you need to be putting in place the necessary infrastructure, the human capacity, the technological capacity to deal with that. Now, if we are talking about a short race, you're preparing, training for a short race, and someone else is preparing for a marathon, you're going to run out of breath before you have done your first kilometer, because you are preparing for 100 meters. You are not preparing for 42 kilometers. So that when we look at CBC, for example, and I know I'm hogging time, I'll allow the others to speak. I'll keep a little more quiet. And you are talking about CBC as the educational instrument to take us to Vision 2030. And the kids are going to primary school today. When are they going to grow up to implement Vision 2030? Will they recall Vision 2030 15 years later, when they have now gone through the tunnel to now say we are implementing Vision 2030? We should be talking about Kenya Vision 2200, 2100.
Okay. And talking about Kenya Vision 2030 or Kenya Vision 2200 or 200 and all that is one thing. It is another to abide by these visions that have been set. Kisia says that, you know, every government that comes in should align their plans in relation to this one. That is Vision 2030. That is what we have on the table. Much as there's a general feel by the likes of Barack that perhaps it is not up to standard. So in this case, when the president, you know, gets into power, do they stick to that, or they have the liberty, you know, as elected by the people of Kenya, to deviate from the same?
Let me tell you, I see on Friday, I saw the president appointed Miss Caroline Kariuki to be the chair of the board of, I think, Vision 2030 or something like that. Let me say the following. Vision 2030 was crafted as our hold on what is MDGs then, but MDGs have metamorphosed globally to be SDGs. It is important to make that clarity, that what we know today as SDG was what was held by the United Nations as MDGs. But because the millennium is also about restricting time to 1,000 years, they thought it would be better to work with what is sustainable. Because in 1,000 years, so much will change. And so much changed from 1,000 to 2,000, where we were.
Yeah.
So when the government envisioned what Kenya should be in 20 years, because it was crafted around 2010, what Kenya should be in 20 years from 2010, they came up with 3 pillars. And these pillars were economic, socio-cultural, political, and political. Political pillar, socio-cultural pillar, and economic pillar. These 3 pillars, each has its own enumerated desired achievements. And if you look at one of those things, it is important to say that the Constitution of Kenya was envisioned in the vision. By 2030, Kenya needed to have had a new constitution, because this was a far cry of 1992. So that one was achieved. On socio-cultural issues, that is where now the journey is. Because politically, many things have been reformed. We have had a political, IEBC being independent, as was envisaged in the Constitution. We have had a political liaison committee. We have had a couple of political reforms done. A couple of political reforms. We are not yet there, but still, the vision goes on. Now, when the president assumed his second term and final, he again came up with Big Four agenda. But because we were in the team, I remember this Big Four agenda was all about picking Big Four, Vision 2030 in a simplified form with what was happening. That's why it's called sustainable. What is our problem? What was our problem in 2010 may not have been our problem in 2018. And secondly, the solutions of 2010 may not have worked in solution of 2018, which will also happen if President Raila Odinga is sworn in, or rather when he is sworn in the coming general election. He will have to adopt solutions to perhaps the same challenges that the President Kenyatta faced but with his own way of solving them. And you will see it for yourself.
Yeah.
So let me say, Vision 2030 was a well thought out idea. If you saw what it was, if you saw the men behind it, if you saw the country promulgating it in agreement, it was a beautiful and envisaged document to guide us again. Let me agree with Daktari. Once we get there, because we are 80 years away from what Kenya was desired, we will take stock. This is Kenya we wanted politically. Are we there? This is the Kenya we wanted socio-economically. Are we there? This is the Kenya we wanted rather socio-culturally. And is this now the country we wanted economically? The answer may be yes, but not yet. From that point, then we will come up with another vision, as he put it. Vision 20, the president could decide.
Yes.
Then to say Vision 2063 in line with the African agenda.
And perhaps that informs my next question.
Yes.
And we agree with Dr. Barak at some point. Then the SDGs come a little bit later, somewhere around 2015.
No, they didn't come.
Prior.
I want to correct that. SDGs did not come. MDGs.
Exactly.
That's the word.
Hence my question.
Yeah.
So if we have Vision 2030, we can as well advance that to something better.
Yeah.
So is it a little bit too hard for Barak to say that, this really wasn't necessary or not well thought?
You see, first of all, we must give credit where it is due. This country never had a vision. Or at least it was never documented.
Is it?
And even, yes,
Okay.
there was no documented vision.
Nothing guided us.
Never had vision was there, not documented.
No,
Yeah.
there was nothing.
I
a
had
vision.
said I would keep quiet.
Let him keep quiet for the time being.
All right.
Because I'm just about to dismantle him. Visions or a vision must be shared. If it's a vision that is affecting the entire country, it must be shared. There must be input from the people it is going to benefit. So when Emeritus, the late President Mwai Kibaki, came into power, he said we cannot move forward. Just like Singapore said, we don't have a vision. So how are we driving our agenda? So the first thing is to consult people and document a vision. That was done. Number two, a good vision is very cognizant of the fact that time is an important issue. So in fact, when you're managing a vision, it's normally rolled out in either 3 years, you have a cycle of 3 years or 5 years.
Yeah.
In our case, our cycle was every 5 years. So we had things to deliver within 5 years and then review. And if you look at the administration of Mwai Kibaki, there was a department, actually a whole ministry that had one responsibility, performance, management, and contracting. Okay? So when my good brother and elder brother says that our vision really wasn't a good vision, I don't know where he's picking that from. However, let him just relax. You see, the other thing that I also want to probably share with my brother Muluka is the fact that, vision actually is just people complicate. A vision is just a dream.
All right.
Okay? So what is your dream? So that's your vision, becomes your vision, okay? But most important is the fact that you cannot take a vision too far in the distant future. Why? Because of environmental turbulence. Okay. Environmental turbulence and your ability to respond to the change. So you see, the changes in the environment are so turbulent that sometimes you don't have the mechanisms of responding to that change in good time because maybe you don't have adequate resources, okay? So, and a good response to change in an environment on a scale of 5 is 4.5. That is a very high response in any approach. Therefore, this country, we have something, we have a document. It has been rolled out. We are actually behind in some areas. Like Zaka said, in some other areas we have done fairly well, and we must give ourselves credit. Let us not all the time complain about what is not working, but let us also celebrate about what the achievements we've made.
Yeah.
So what we need to do, and probably this is where this administration should have done, compared to other administration. They have done many things, but were the targets specific and measurable? Were they? Did we have a department that was contracting? Yeah? And then was there anybody who was monitoring and reporting back to the people? I think that lacked. So we don't know whether they have achieved what was set to be achieved, or whether they have achieved 50%. We actually don't know. I think this administration has done a lot, but they should have done better if they were reporting on what they had said to achieve,
right,
and giving a report form back to the people of Kenya.
Wow.
I think there they failed.
Question of accountability. We really haven't. We need to be fair.
Just to buttress, and then I'll give Daktari. It's your time. It has been done. We have a vision, 2030 vision board that do this kind of tracking. And also, the president himself had PDU, Presidential Delivery Unit, which tracked and reported. The problem is that it was never communicated to the people, to the president. It was never communicated to the people. All the work that has been done in the ground, which is enormous, has been reported to him as a contractor. He's the one who gave this job to his
people who gave him the job.
No, the problem is that it was never given to the people.
All right, proceed, Dr. Barak. Dr. Barak.
Is your time now, Doctor?
May I be heard? Thank you very much, Mr. Kisia, for what you call dismantling me. It is a spirited, effort.
Respond.
And I give you 3 out of 10 for attempting to dismantle me, because he speaks from a platform of ignorance, or feigned ignorance, because this is a very knowledgeable person. So I think he speaks on a platform of feigned ignorance.
Why do you argue
When
so?
Tom Mboya died in 1969, he was the Minister for Economic Planning and Development. Economic Planning and Development. There was a whole ministry in the Jomo Kenyatta government which was charged with the responsibility of economic planning and development. And in those days, we were looking forward to the year 2000. In 1969, in fact, the birth of that vision was in 1965, when Kenya issued sessional paper number 10 on African socialism and its application to planning and development in Kenya. It was a visionary agenda. It was looking forward to where Kenya would be at the end of that millennium and at the beginning of the millennium. And when we talk about MDGs, we are not talking about 1,000 years. We are talking about the short period between the year 1992 and the year 2000, when the global community met in Rio de Janeiro, in Brazil, the World Summit, to discuss environmental issues. That was when the Millennium Development Goals were mooted by that assembly. And it was talking about human development. Development measured not in terms of concrete, in terms of metal, but in terms of human development. And by the time we were getting to the turn of the millennium, the global community recognized that there was need to, in fact, expand the development goals from 6 to 17.
Okay.
And they realized that there was need for that development to be sustainable. And so they spoke now about SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, with the human factor, the human being at the center of that development. That we must be able to look at the extent to which we have reduced famine and hunger among populations to say that we are developing. We must be able to look at gender equity in any given society to say that we are developing. We must be able to look at the protection of the environment. We must be able to look at the growth in education and the growth in employment, meaningful, gainful employment, to say that we are developing. Now, when we kind of fool around and play around with these very serious issues, and we say we have a development plan, a visionary agenda, we lie to nobody but to ourselves. Finally, Sessional paper number 10 of 1965 did not pretend that Kenya was going to jump to 2000 in one whole. In fact, the initial plan, 1965, went only up to the end of 1969. Then 1969-1974, there was a development plan fashioned within the wider rubric of sessional paper number 10. Then from 1969 to 1974, there was another plan. 1974-1979, there was another plan. 1979 to 1984, there was a plan. However, the plan for 1979-1984 did not get to be followed because then President Daniel Arap Moi came up with a new visionary agenda.
Right.
I say all this because we must correct this notion
that we really did not have.
This gentleman should keep quiet.
But Barack, let's also try and balance
quiet.
time.
No, I'll balance time, but let him allow.
Message is home, right?
We are wasting time. I would have finished by now if I had been given
30 seconds, Barack.
30 seconds. Yeah. So the plans have been there. The visionary agenda has been there, and it has been pursued in 5-year installmental plans. That's why when politicians go out on the campaign trail, they come up with their own visionary agendas, and these visionary agendas eventually are translated into national development plans that we then pursue over a period of 5 years. The very last one is that Vision 2030. Vision 2030 was actually birthed by President Daniel Arap Moi. We always tend to forget that, and this gentleman here worked for the government. He should know and tell Kenyans the truth that it started with Moi.
Okay, let me thank you.
Make a rejoinder in 1 minute.
Thank you. In 1 minute. Thank you, my brother, for also making a very good attempt, as you always do. But you see,
you used my books.
You see,
in school.
You see, a vision is a shared dream. So when you sit down as a group of people and craft a vision, that is your own vision. So that is the first cardinal principle of visioning. Okay? It must be shared and owned by everybody. Number 2, when my brother Barack says there were visions before Vision 2030, he has not told us what the vision was. He's stating, he's talking about sessional papers. A sessional paper cannot be a vision. Finally, when you talk about a vision, Barack, when you talk about a vision, I would want you to tell me what are the elements of that vision. For Vision 2030, one of the elements of that vision is industrialization. The other one is being a middle income country by 2030. The last one is high quality of life for the people of Kenya. Thank you.
How different is it from the, fact that our forefathers argued we want to, deal with the question of illiteracy,
I've just given
disease,
I've given you the process. I've given the process of formulating a vision.
From a platform.
Nani,
proceed.
learn to listen. I gave you 10 minutes. Give me 2. The process of visioning.
My director says he cannot even give you 2. So we take a short break and we come back to you.
Despite being visually impaired, he is a jack of all trades. It is our quest to find answers on how to take care of children with special needs and those with disability. You do not need to see musical notes to understand music, but rather to have your soul feel the vibe.
Actually, for us to make a wheelchair, we have to take measurements of the user.
After doing my assessment, I get to know the parent, I get to know the heaviness she's carrying. Disability comes at different stages of life.
How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga.
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m.
The next set of millionaires are farmers. As we know, agriculture has been and still is the backbone of our economy.
All right, back, and Zaki Nuthia is here with us, Barack Muluka, as well as Philip Kisia. Philip, I'll only give you a minute to wind up on that one because we've delved much on it, and there are a couple of other issues that we'd want to touch on before we exit the set. So, Philip, to you.
No, as I was just saying in closing that, basically a vision is just a dream. Let's not overglorify these things, a dream. And when it touches on a country, it must be shared.
All right.
And then there's a process of visioning, or formulating a vision.
All right, I see the gentlemen look at the paper, some turning to the next page, others turning it to the back page and all that. They hugely speak of the difficulties that we have as a people of Kenya. And, they also remind us the way to go in the event that we do not want to fall the Sri Lanka way. They speak of just how many teachers have gone out there to, request to be accommodated in the teaching fraternity. The number in comparison to those ones that are needed, pretty much of a huge gap in terms of employment. We speak of what it is that Barack has mentioned on the Daily Nation, that it's about over-promising and delivering, and Kenyans keep seeing that. Does it really dictate that we are at the level where sisi sio wajinga, or perhaps we have even become more, in terms of just getting to argue issues, understanding issues and everything? We are at a worse state.
Well, I would say where we are coming from was worse, because there was no questioning of whatever politicians said. There was no questioning of what the government thought or what it attempted to implement. I tend to believe, and these polls will prove me right.
Non-verbal communication dictates that Barack is totally in disagreement to what it is that you say, but we'll allow
you're coming from worse situation. People will never, those who questioned it, like academia, had to flee out of this country for asking questions that were legitimate and valid about the way the country is run. These days, whatever you ask, whatever you say, we are here home. And that's what Philip Kisia was saying. We are a little bit better than what we used to be. But on this point, before I lose it, on whether, his look almost dismantled me without even speaking.
My bad, because I'm the one who, my bad.
But the point is,
yes,
when this country, Kenya, get into another dispensation in August, in 20 days actually, 22, 21 days, I will see and prove that Kenyans are no longer fools. As they say, wajiga wamekwisha, Kenya. That can only be proved in the ballot, because most of us can see through the promises being made by gubernatorial candidates about their counties, by presidential candidates about the country, by even people seeking offices like the one I'm seeking for member of parliament. Majority of the people we want to impress upon can see through. Now the question is time. Are they going to disprove us by voting us out, or are they going to approve us by voting us in, having swallowed the bait? That question still remains to be seen. And I believe that we are better off in terms of education, in terms of being aware, in terms of being bold, in participating through democracy in whatever country, in whatever district, in whatever village that we want to live in. But let me pick from where he said about human being at the center of whatever dream, whatever vision, whatever plan, whatever session of paper, the instrument of government operation, whatever it can be. I hope that we can look back and see that we cannot be speaking about people are hungry. I hope the next president, and I'm not saying now the one vying, whoever will be sworn in, I hope that we can stop everything and provide food to those who don't have food, and have mechanism of sustaining food in our homes, in our family. Secondly, that water. I mean, imagine if we had no water. Even coming here in this show would not be possible, because you require a good portion of water to clean up, you require a good portion of water to keep your house clean, and to sustain the same every single day. If we can look at human to be at the center. I know President Kenyatta has looked at means around the human to make things right, like infrastructure and whatever. But now, can we make life of humans better? Are we passionate enough in ending this? When he was a town clerk, you can hear from him say that the informal settlements, what we like calling slums, were the places where people live in the most dire of situations. Can we improve this kind of life? Before we talk about politics, before we talk about Vision 2030, this is my hope for my country, that we can look at humans, put them at the center, even as we quote the development goals of millennium or sustainability, but we can make our people enjoy life once more as human beings, because all of us are here equally, just as animals are.
Okay. Let's get to actual politics for a moment and take a look at this story that has been captured on the front page of the Standard newspaper, perhaps an analysis of what is likely to play out after the August of 9th. And Barack, this limits us to that level where we're talking about, the fact that it's a two-horse race. We're talking about alliances that have spoken to the people of Kenya. They say that, in rewarding loyalty, in rewarding numbers, in appreciating the contribution of some who are at the heart of, forming these alliances, we'll see positions being created. I don't know whether it's creation of positions or maybe just the president's power to as well proceed and set up a chief minister position or post. You will tell us. But they say that this is a double-edged sword, because they are told, bring this on basis of numbers. Kalonzo Musyoka has been promised this, so we all know if it's an Azimio One Kenya Alliance government, it is Kalonzo Musyoka as chief minister. Musalia Mudavadi got this promise first, and therefore we know if it's going to be a Kenya Kwanza government, it is Musalia Mudavadi that takes up this position. But the question lies on the numbers. They are supposed to present good enough numbers so that when it comes to this conversation, then they will have been accorded this on merit. What do you make of this? A double-edged sword indeed, or?
Thank you very much, Linda. The editors behind this story posit the hypothesis that if and when there should be a chief minister or some kind of prime minister, that will create a new center of power, and therefore, while it is rewarding a person who has helped to bring the numbers into the voting basket, it will generate strife within government. In fact, three ways: that you have a president, you have a deputy whom the president would find it difficult to get rid of, and you have a chief minister. In terms of power struggles, I don't think that the position of chief minister should generate any meaningful power struggle, in the sense that this would be an appointee of the president, and who would be quite easily removed, unlike, say, the deputy president, whose removal is very clearly enshrined in the Constitution. And we have seen that those who have been unhappy with the individual who for the time being is the deputy president have found it impossible to go beyond just lamentations and invective. This chief minister would be a very easy one to remove and maybe bring another one. But we also know that this position does not exist. The test of this pudding will be in the eating when we do get there. Kenya Kwanza have talked about an executive order, which perhaps is what Azimio are also thinking about. But we also know that the Constitution is very clear about how government will be created, and it cannot be created in any extra constitutional manner. So we would have to wait and see. But put simply, these are baits that are meant to bring in numbers, whether people talk about 70% or whether they are just silent about that. Kalonzo Musyoka was wooed, he was induced, he was intimidated, and we don't know what else happened so that he could get onto that bandwagon because people were thinking about numbers. And when he got there, everybody said, now our vessel is complete. We now have got the numbers that we want. Kenyans are very good at the very top when they are looking for numbers. Once they have got those numbers, my friend, you're in trouble. The moment that Bible or Quran, it has been the Bible so far, the moment it comes down, and you say, and so help me God.
That's it.
You are dealing with a new animal. It's no longer the person you are with on the campaign trail.
All right, interesting. And we'll come to the numbers. But on the very same matter, Kenya Kwanza presented a document. I remember it was making rounds across all the media stations, articulating how this was arrived at, but most importantly, how it will be executed, the duties and all that. I don't think we have seen much of the same from the Azimio One Kenya Alliance. And therefore, would we assume that it was word of mouth to as well woo Kalonzo to this other side? And does it hold? Bobby Mkangi says, if the position was not discussed well, it will be a recipe for squabbles and political pitfalls. They say the seat is as big or small as the occupier. Just how important would it be for these two factions or these two sides or alliances, to get it right in terms of everything that needs to be articulated as to the formation of this position, as to who will occupy it, as to the duties that they will perform, so that by the time they get into it, there's not going to be, a possible problem.
Linda, both sides have manifestos, which are basically promises that we're making to the people of the Republic. They have both made an attempt to say how those promises shall be delivered. But as my brother, senior brother Baraka said, the Constitution limits the way one can maneuver with the structure. The structure is fairly rigid. For example, you cannot appoint 23 ministers. Only 22. Okay? It doesn't give you room. You can appoint less, but you cannot appoint more. But again, the same Constitution, I think, gives the man or woman who drops the Bible or the Quran down, or the sword, and is replaced with the sword. Once the Quran or Bible come down, you're given the sword. The power now to deal with any challenges that may arise. Okay? The same Constitution gives that person some maneuverability in terms of reorganizing your government. So again, how the lawyers will go to court and argue that matter out is a matter that we can just wait to see how it pan out. But let us talk about this position they are calling Chief Minister. I suspect that they are hiding under reorganization of government. That the same Constitution gives me power to reorganize, rearrange my government. Within a given framework, okay? So I will not be bothered about the names, really. But what is the job analysis for that particular office? Yeah? What is the job spec? What authority does that person have? Because you can be given a big name, a chief managing director, with no powers, with no job to do. Your job is to read newspapers in the morning, okay? But if it is another, what His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta did to appoint, Matiang'i was there as a minister, but he gave him additional responsibility. He's still a CS. The Constitution allows the president to give a certain minister more responsibility. So I suspect, I don't know what Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka has negotiated with Baba, or what my brother Musalia has negotiated with William, I don't know. We can only wait and see, because they have not shared that document with the public.
Yeah.
We just see a chief minister and so on and so forth.
I hope it does not come later and we are surprised by the...
I mean, looking at our constitution, they're all cabinet secretaries, unless something changes. All of them.
All of them.
So the structure is clear. You have the president, who is the head of state, and a commander-in-chief. Then you have a deputy, who is not a deputy commander-in-chief, he's just a deputy. Barack says that you cannot remove him, but I can tell you, if you gave me a... maybe I misunderstood you. Relax.
I gave him my books.
Relax, my brother. Relax, my brother. Relax. But you see, if you are given a job, whatever title you are given, but you have nothing to do, it is very frustrating, it's humiliating. If I'm the one, I quit. I go home and take care of my children.
Well, there you go. And this formation of positions, we understand what is there for Martha Karua that many would want to question as to whether then the president, then if they are elected as a president, he would be allowed to, accord these powers to her. But as well, on grounds of the fact that a deputy then takes orders, if not, assignments from their boss, this would pass?
Well, let me answer that question by first delving into what my senior brothers here have stated. And I know sometimes I'm accused of being controversial, but it is not. It is the fact that I want to say things as I have seen them and as I think about them. And this is my thinking about the whole saga of chief minister. Can I begin by telling President Raila Odinga or President William Ruto or President let me mention these two because they are the one who have made promises on this.
Even Maure.
Has Chief Minister, has he promised a
Chief Minister not.
That's what I'm saying. On this matter.
This one's yes, on this one.
He could
No, on this one.
This we haven't had. If he has.
It could be you. It could be you.
Yeah. Okay, well, maybe he will toss after election. But those who have said before
until
election.
Then, we can only focus on this.
Yes, let me tell them
this
here,
matter,
without blinking my eye. You will break this promise. And let me tell the one who have been promised that this promise will be broken.
Is it?
Yeah. And I'm saying this again, time will prove it. The president who takes over office, as you said, by the time he drops down the Bible,
the Holy Book,
so much that he does not even think will happen. Circumstances around a presidential candidate are not the circumstances around the president-elect. Now, the circumstances between the president-elect and the president of the republic are so hugely fundamentally different, even them cannot begin to understand. So these things of saying that positions will be tossed before are good, as he said, for promises and campaign. But I would say this, he is talking about a chief minister who may not have a position. But think about a president who takes over office, but is a captive, a hostage of interest. Interest coming from pre-election arrangements of promises. And for the presidential candidate that I deem fit to hold the office, who is Raila Odinga, this is my thinking. Imagine Raila has been sworn in, has been given all the instruments of power, and then from the shadows lurks an image of Wycliffe Oparanya saying with a torch, I am waiting for Treasury CS, and then switches the torch. From the other corner, Joho, with a torch, I'm waiting the lands. Then switch off the... From the other corner, Kalonzo is there saying, I am waiting for my chief minister. Then Gilu is on the other corner asking for health. Another one is, this will be...
You have forgotten Bahati.
Did he? I don't know what Bahati was promised. But yes, there was a promise also coming for Bahati. I had Raila Odinga himself say, we'll give him a job. But for this, remember, so many people have been given. Actually, one of the dailies in this country ran 10 cabinet secretaries who will be in Azimio government. This is my question. Where do we leave Raila? Where do we leave the executive authority that will be given to, and I'm talking about Azimio. The same can be applied to those who think Ruto can be president. Where do we leave this president? Where is his power? This chief minister thing. Suppose Kalonzo is made a chief minister. These two other ministers and 10 or 13 coming in, are they going to behold him and respect him as a chief minister? This is the question. The second thing is the president going to be able to rally this house? I think it would be a government of chaos. My thinking is it would be a government where entitlement overrides the national interest. That, remember, you didn't bring us here. And that was the message of the deputy president. We were elected together. Okay. That's the message of the deputy president who is holding office, has been saying, you guys are taking right, you are joking. You can't remove me here. Why? Because we are elected together. Yeah. That is a fact, but not a right. Okay? And this is what I would tell. The government of entitlement cannot deliver at all. I think we must allow the next president a leeway. Okay. If Ruto takes over, he must turn the tables. If Raila takes over, he must not just turn the tables, but he must remove them from the scene and create his own table, where now he can admit people on merit. Remember, when we go to parliament, there will also be questions of integrity. There will also be questions of fitness for people to hold the offices of cabinet secretaries. There will be questions of the law. We will be here asking questions also. If I will be in parliament, God willing, when, we will be asking questions of integrity.
Yes. You will be.
Yeah, isn't it? Yeah, we will be asking. Because not everybody will come in and become a cabinet secretary.
That's true.
I pray that this one does not engineer a new set of chaos when we take over the next government, whichever side takes it. Because this entitlement thing is very dangerous. That President Raila or President Ruto cannot sit down again and now restructure the government the way they think can perform, because promises are out there and doors are being knocked that I was told I would be X, I was told I would be Y, I was told...
It's interesting that the promises are also made to politicians, and so we're talking about empty promises.
Let me just comment on what my brother Zach has said.
Yeah.
It's very interesting, and I wish you well, and I'm praying for you.
Thank you.
And I hope that you remember my senior brother, Barack himself.
In his government or where?
You'll be chief minister.
Maura's cabinet.
Let me say this. You know, what my brother has said is true. You know, this sense of entitlement, that I'm entitled, I think needs to stop. In fact, I've been advising people that once you've been given the opportunity by those in power and by God, that we are living, that we're able to live with good health, to serve people for 5-10 years. Why are you making it so difficult for other people even to be given an opportunity to serve? Why can't you just take a break from the public eye? You've been there for 10 years. Are you telling us that there are no other Kenyans who can provide leadership? Why can't you take a break? There are so many things you can do outside public office. So I would encourage people, and I've seen many people lobbying for whatever they want to lobby for. It's your right, but please give us a break. This country is bigger than you and me. Finally, because I'm just commenting on what my brother has said, Zach, you know, just like Baraka said, Bible up or Quran up, comes down, it is replaced with a sword. Now, at that point, you can be told to go to hell. So, what I'm hoping, Zach, is that Raila Odinga will have the guts of saying, listen, man, that we were campaigning that time, now to form a government. To deliver, because I only have 5 years.
And we will support him.
And we support him.
On that.
Okay. Since they are speaking for Raila.
You want to speak for?
I'll speak for the others.
Okay.
But you know I'm going to be in the cabinet. David Mwaura Wahiga is going to appoint me.
Chief Minister. Don't forget me.
And it's good to lobby. I mean, it's in the process of...
or it's a David Mwaura, I hope you are watching. Remember me when you get to paradise. But the issue is this. Niccolo Machiavelli told us this a long time ago in The Prince. When you get there, in order to move forward, you have got to forget about all these people who have helped you to get there. If you do not forget about them, then there will be no movement. There's just going to be wrangling and more wrangling. Zach Kinuthia has said, and I think Philip here concurs, that there will be all these people coming with expectations. They're going to squeeze you out of oxygen. And really, you can soldier on with the government without having these fellows around you who think that they are entitled because they have put you there. In fact, in the unlikely event that Raila Odinga becomes the president, the first person he should consider to appoint in his government is me. Because
but you have relaxed to this other side, and then all of a sudden you just surface and...
Yeah, that is what Machiavelli advises people like Odinga. Get people like Barack, who have not done anything much to help you to get there, because they will be grateful that you appointed them. But if you appoint these others like Zach Kinuthia,
they say we are here on merit.
Yeah, they're saying we are here on merit. We brought something on board. We brought something on board. They think that they are going to intimidate you all the time. So you look for other people who have got cause to be grateful, not people who think that you have cause to be grateful to them. And Raila Odinga is very thoroughly schooled in political science, in political history. He knows what he's doing. If you are hanging around him, hobnobbing, thinking that when he gets there to the promised land that he will be with you,
he will overlook
you will
the list.
Be in a lot of trouble. President Mwai Kibaki showed us that when he was just president-elect, people who had been on the campaign trail with him could not access him. They went to his house here in Mdaiga, and they were turned away. And some of them started grumbling. And that was the beginning of the cracks and eventually the fallout in the NAC government. It's going to be the same this time round, regardless of who wins the election, except that I will be in the cabinet of David Mwaure Waihiga.
You will, okay, well, all right, we don't forget you. We take a short break, gentlemen, and then we come hit the last lap of this one, and that is pertaining to the question of numbers. I would want for Zach to perhaps be schooled a bit, not really schooled, but pick lessons, take notes in relation to the elusive Mlembe unity and what appears to be a possible, split of the mountain, if at all there's going to be any, and in future whether this would cost you. So you might need to learn from the brothers of Mulembe Nation as to how this...
It's the best school of theory.
Yes, after this break.
Despite being visually impaired, he is a jack of all trades. It is our quest to find answers on how to take care of children with special needs and those with disability. You do not need to see musical notes to understand music, but rather to have your soul feel the vibe.
Actually, for us to make a wheelchair, we have to take measurements of the user.
After doing my assessment, I get to know the parent, I get to know the heaviness she's carrying. Disability comes at different stages of life.
How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated...
Battle of the Deputies. What?
Despite being visually impaired, he is a jack of all trades. It is our quest to find answers on how to take care of children with special needs and those with disability. You do not need to see musical notes to understand music, but rather to have your soul feel the vibe.
Actually, for us to make a wheelchair, we have to take measurements of the user.
After doing my assessment, I get to know the parent, I get to know the heaviness she's carrying. Disability comes at different stages of life.
How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza Lazi.
Welcome back to the broadcast. Last laps of this. Before we go to the numbers, I don't know whether the gentlemen on set are privy to the 1 million plate dinner of Baba by those ones that are considered to be tycoons, business individuals in the country that, you know.
Okay, Kisia is attending.
Kisia is attending.
It already happened.
It happened.
Friday.
Yes, and I mean here we are, and I mean we had very many people coming on board.
He attended.
Speaking of approximately 10 million, did you senior tell us whether you attended? But most importantly, the role of these ones that are business people, you know, in the country. And not just any other business person, we understand, and tycoons in terms of manning, you know, the activities of a nation. I have seen countries going down because of these people. I have seen others actually, you know, freshening because of their contribution to it. When they come out to campaign for you, when they come out to enjoy dinner worth 1 million bob in the name of campaigning for an individual, what happens in the event that this person then ascends to power? Do they call the tune? Kisia, did you attend?
Number one, my body wasn't there, but I was there in spirit.
Okay. So you attended, all right, in spirit.
My body wasn't there, but
okay.
I was in spirit. So
in spirit,
now,
yes.
You know, I think it depends from person to person. When you're contributing to a cause, be it an elective office, be it a funeral, be it anything, the question is, do you expect to be paid back?
Their interests.
So in terms of political office, my assumption is that you are contributing, whatever you're contributing, because it's not just about money. What about minutes, if you're giving your time? What about machinery, if you're giving a machinery? So there are many things you can contribute towards an elective office. But my suspicion would be, I mean, if you're a civilized person, that you just want somebody who will provide good governance, somebody who will make sure that the environment is favorable for everybody so that you're able to operate. Okay? Because even if you contribute and the guy goes in and the environment is not favorable, your businesses will not thrive, you will not be able to recover that money. So you just want somebody in that office, somebody who will provide good leadership, good governance, and good management of the economy. But of course, you cannot rule out those guys who want to appear there so that they can be remembered, that they contributed whatever they contributed, and expect some reward. But I think that is a very uncivilized, a very uncultured way of looking at things. You contribute because you want to give, because you're able to give, and you're giving for a good cause.
Zach, you buy that?
I buy it, yes. Yeah. And I'll tell you, it is not new. And it is not peculiar to us. In 2017, the same happened, but it was in 2017 that it was brought to limelight when President Kenyatta team called Friends of Uhuru raised 1 billion in 2 minutes. Yeah, 1 billion in 2 minutes because 10 people came.
We'll come to you,
because we were part of the organizers. Sometimes I'm able to speak from the point of authority. 10 people came with 100 people came with 10 million shillings each. 100 people, just 10 million shillings each. And it was over. Then they started eating food that was being prepared there. And only 10, I may not mention them here because they don't want to be known, but they came with 10 million. Even on Friday, the one you are referring to here, I was not there. It's important to admit that, but I was aware it was going on. I was actually around the vicinity, but not there. A few people, about 7, came with over 10 million. There was a person who brought 250 million check, okay, and presented it. This is not a person that deals with government. It's not a dealer. We know the dealers and the wheelers, but there are many reasons why people fund campaign, especially a campaign of a presidential magnitude. There is a man who is doing this, and I would want to ask even Kenyans. It's Dr. Samuel Kamau. Surely, as you look from there, what is he going to benefit in a president who is his friend? Some of these people are also looking for prestige of being president's friends.
Is it?
Okay.
Dr. Barak.
People who do, but there are also people who are bringing money to recoup it. Okay. People who are bringing 1 million, 2 million, 5, 10, even 20, but they say that upon the assumption of power of this regime, we are going to be making businesses. Some who did it in 2017 were the one who are wreaking havoc in this government. And I can admit that and say some of the people who brought money in Safari Park for President Uhuru Kenyatta re-election are some of them who have been embroiled in the worst of scandals. Because they didn't bring this money for good cause. As Philip is saying, there are people who just want to see a good governance. But in this election, most of the people who brought money do not want to imagine a country of the lawless opponent.
Let's talk probabilities, Dr. Baraka, as you respond to them. And they were just coming to support a friend. They were just coming to support so that we are guaranteed of a safe space after the August 9th. But also the probability that out of 10, 20, 30 that would have attended and, gave out their resources towards this noble cause, if it is noble at all, what is the probability that the 10, 20 of them are genuine, are straight, that not one of them will come out and be a Gupta brother, as we have witnessed in South Africa?
Thank you, Linda. I must credit myself with a significant capacity for patience and level-headedness to sit around here and listen to these two gentlemen saying the sorts of things that they are saying about cartels and about state capture in the making. In a country in which our ports are sold to people who are faceless, that there are companies and entities that we do not even know who is behind them. And these are these cartels. There's no such thing as free lunch. I was present when Philip Kisia was the town clerk in Nairobi addressing us at the Nairobi Hilton. And he told us about these people who want to break your back. I think that was the imagery that he used, and how he had resisted all that. These fellows are not benevolent. There's no such thing as benevolence where a capitalist, the owner of capital, howsoever they have made that wherewithal, will come with 200 million shillings to just give you and throw it away because they think you are a good person. They have their own expectations, and you must live up to those expectations. And those expectations, if they are about creating an environment, it's going to be an environment that will allow people who do the kinds of things that they do to thrive, and most of the time outright illegal and extra legal things, that every so often you will hear that taxation on a certain item has been lifted over a certain period of time, basically so that those fellows can bring in sugar, they can bring in maize. And it doesn't matter to me as a Kenyan, Linda, whether those cartels are affiliated to William Ruto, they are affiliated to David Mwaura, to Wajakoya, or to Raila Odinga. I cannot sit here and attempt to justify that kind of thing. It is obtuse, it is obnoxious, it is obscene that in a country where people cannot even have one meal in a day, someone is coming around to flaunt their wealth, most of it of questionable origins, and they're saying that I'm putting down 100 million for a plate of food. Where is that magnanimity? Why is it not extending to the ordinary people of this country who are sleeping hungry every day? So what we are seeing, these are the cartels in the making. This is state capture in the making. That in a short while, these contracts that you hear of PPP, that we do not know who these people behind these contracts are, these are the ones. Look no further.
Let me just comment on what my senior brother has said.
Yeah.
I think both of us, my brother Zach and myself, said there are people who have ill motives, and they are known. So it was not fair for you to have dismissed our arguments. But anyway, some people look at a bigger picture. A bigger picture is about an operating environment. You want to put somebody in the office who can create an environment where you can thrive. Therefore, taking something out of your profits and giving him is a risk you're taking. But there are two kinds of people. There are those people who do it knowing very well that, okay, if that environment is created, I'll make profit and I'll recoup my. But there are those who just want to get in for the purposes of recovering their money. Those are dangerous people. But anyway, let me probably, because I've read his books, and I'm not a very bad student. You know, my brother, my senior brother, has focused on one resource. Only one resource. And he's an educated man, PhD. One resource, money. What about, and Barack has contributed a lot to political players in this country. I know, I don't want to mention them. Many, all of these people. In fact, all of them. He has contributed his minutes or time. That as a resource. Does Barack, my brother, tell me he was paid? And if he was paid adequately to compensate that time that he used as a resource? Wait a minute. Was it compensated adequately? Okay, some didn't pay. So was he a cartel? The other one, he must have used his motor vehicle. He must have used his laptops. He used his machinery. Is that not a resource? He used his management capabilities. He used his marketing skills. Those are
communication.
All resources. Those are resources. Those are resources.
Yeah.
So let us not limit resourcing to one, money. In fact, in terms of resource management, the biggest resource you can ever deploy is time or minutes.
Remember,
Remember,
I said obtuse, I said obnoxious, I
So-
said obscene. 3 obs. Obsess.
Okay.
Yeah? The scale is important. There are things which I can give you on a certain scale and they look rational.
True.
If we come to a dinner, like this gentleman invites us to dinner and we go and we do things within a certain scale, it is rational. We give you that support.
Yeah.
But when we bend backwards over until the back of our head is touching the ground to impress you with the largesse, with the wherewithal, and we are saying, remember me.
Was
when
this
you
an
get
extreme
to-
for these people? Wanasema Kenya ni wewe peke yako tu useme hauna pesa.
Oh,
Usiongee
obtuse.
kwa niaba ya watu wengine.
Yes, and things like obtuseness are seen relative to what everyone else has. That we are seeing the people who are challenged in terms of food in Kigumo and in Emanyudi and everywhere else.
Yeah.
That obsceneness, we must accept it, we must acknowledge it. I'd like to see some of these largesse, some of this goodwill spreading out to people who we are seeing in the papers every day. They are dying of famine, they are dying of hunger. Then I will know that this is pure altruism, that these are people who mean well, that they care about Kenyans.
Well, a distinct division, also to speak, difference in the mountain as pertaining to where the votes then would lie. Last week, it was all about numbers. It was all about how then does a candidate guarantee themselves a 50+1. It was about these regions and what they're bringing on the table. It was about looking at individuals and seeing the capabilities of them presenting the numbers. It's exactly what we have woken up to and walked into this morning in terms of looking at Musalia Mudavadi as well as Kalonzo Musyoka. While this is not so much on the airwaves today, the question of numbers, what would you say about the elusive Mulembe unity? And perhaps I would want for Zach then to pick lessons for that so that then the mountain region does not fall in such lines.
I don't know why you talk about elusive Mulembe unity.
Is it not elusive? It was even witnessed in Nairobi.
No, 1 second. I don't know where.
It's spilled to Nairobi. All right, proceed.
Because you see, Luyas, the community called Luya, has always been united. And to a very large extent have voted in a particular direction. Maybe not 100%, because it's a very democratic group of people, very democratic. They don't vote using their stomachs to a large extent, they vote using their heads. Okay? So we must give them credit that they're democratic. But they have voted from the time immemorial. They supported Moi. In 1992, I remember, they decided they gave some, was it to the late Matiba.
Ken Matiba,
Ken Matiba.
Moi, and even Kibaki.
And they gave they gave to Matiba, I think almost 40-something%. They gave Moi 50-something%. Come 97, they gave to Moi to a large extent. Come 2002, of course, everybody voted for Kibaki. Luyas voted for Kibaki. 2007, to a very large extent, they voted for Raila Amolo Odinga. 2013, despite the fact that Musalia, our brother, was running, they gave their vote to Raila Amolo Odinga. 2017, the same thing happened. So when you say there is elusiveness in Luya unity, I don't know which Luyas I'll talk about.
That can be challenged. Zach.
Propaganda that you must allow the Luyas around this table to speak.
Well,
first.
we did not know that you all Luyas proceed.
Because
so Zach can come in.
You're talking about us. So we must be given the opportunity to ventilate.
Proceed.
After which others may talk about us. When you have 3 or 4 people from our community contesting for office, people say, oh, the Luya people are not united. This time we have only one person from our community contesting for the presidency. And we are still hearing the same narrative that we are disunited. So why can't the Luyas then just go and vote for Jojo Luchiri Wajakoya? Because we have got that person from our community. We tend to look at things a lot more democratically from a value-based platform. And I think that is where this country should be going, instead of glorifying and edifying negative ethnicity. Negative ethnicity in the sense that if you look at the Kamba, for example, in this country, until the other day, everyone was wondering how are the Akamba people going to vote. It's like they have no individual minds of their own. That everybody was running after Kalonzo Musyoka. The Kenya Kwanza people were busy saying, Kalonzo, see how they have mistreated you. Come and join us here. We will treat you well. And the other fellows were saying, as me, no, Kalonzo, come here, don't go to that camp. It doesn't have the kinds of values and principles that you embrace. They were not interested in his values and principles. They were interested in what has been taken up as a matter of course, that wherever he goes, the Kamba people will swing with him. Yeah? And we don't operate like that. We have got this. We think, and we take things and decisions based on our platforms of values. That's why we have supported people across the board. And the only other people who are beginning to demonstrate that they can behave like ourselves are the Kikuyu. That they look at things and they are saying, you are not going to drag us this way just because you think we are cattle and that we are Kikuyu and that we therefore belong to you. And I think that I would encourage this country to go the same direction.
Is that where is that the direction the mountain is taking? And would you look at that as a growth on the question of democracy? That today the mountain is being referred to as a swing region, that today the mountain can have a candidate, but still you have people from there who argue that really there's not a formidable person to represent them, you know, as a person from the mountain, that today the mountain can be viewed as a divided entity or again, a divided
a good
group
question,
of
Linda.
Yeah.
Again, numbers will tell. Numbers after election will tell whether mountain was divided or not. But let's go back to America, where we like to fashion as a source of democracy, rather as a beacon of democracy. People are not seen as we see them here. We talk about state, which red state, which is blue state, which is a red state, which is blue state, which is democratic, which that way. Here, the first problem arises when we talk about Luya. And the first problem again arises when we talk about Gema. There's nothing like that. It is a political concoction that was cooked by people who wanted to put people into regional interest. Luyas do not exist.
Oh, we exist.
No, I'm talking. Luyas don't exist. They are only Bukusu.
No,
they are only Maragori.
No, you don't
and
know
there are many in Gema. Let me talk about now Gema.
Yeah,
there is nothing like Gema. There is no community called Gema. It does not exist anywhere. There are Agikuyu people. There are Embu people. There is Ameru people, and then there is Daraka people. When they are brought together, concocted for political purposes, they are likely called to be called Gema. But because the word Gema has been totally butchered and battered, it transformed into mountain. These days people talk about the mountain. The mountain people are saying, but this is a creation of 2013. Prior to 2013, it was Gema. But that name again, because of its history, has been dropped over time. Others said A was for association, the final A. Others said A was for Akamba. There has been many people saying many different things. But politically, to say there is a Kalenjin will vote this. And to say that Luyas will vote this. And Gema will vote this. And Minjikenda will vote this. There is a serious adulteration of various interests that bedevil every singular group of people. For instance, if you come to Mount Kenya, now, which is today called the mountain people, and of whether there are cracks or not, can be heralded to one direction or not. This is it. What do you mean? The interest of Ameru people are totally distinct from the interest of Agikuyu people. And even within Agikuyu people, interest of the eastern, the central, and the western Agikuyu are totally different. People in Kiambu are not in the same interest as people in the far east Kirinyaga people. Luya is the Abaluya people, the same. You know, it began in the beginning as a cultural anthropological group. That are these Bantu people? Yes. Are these Nilotic people? Yes. Are these Kushaitic people? These things spilled over to politics, and that is why there is a problem, because one group of Maragori cannot see in Vihiga will not see the same as others in Busia.
No.
People in Busia.
We do.
Socio-cultural issues that affect political orientations. Because in the end, as he said, we will be looking at politics for interest. And what are the interests? What are the interests of our people? Is it water? Is it coffee? Is it tea? Is it our person? When we have nothing else to say on ideology, we now look at our person. When a certain tribe presents more than one person, that is why we say it is elusive. Right. They are not united because we have Zak and we have Minor vying from the same regional orientation, but they are equal, either strong or they are going to deviate people in different directions for stronger candidates. This is why people say people are divided or unity is elusive. And for this matter, Mount Kenya people, now the mountain people, will be seen as of whether they were united or disunited after election, because it is a new dispensation. And were they united in 92? No. Were they united in 97? No. Were they united in 2002? No. Others were with President Kenyatta. Others were with President Kibaki, who won. This thing of unity, has Mount Kenya people been united anyway? Over time? Is
another question that's a question to ponder on.
That's why I was saying the mountain, and mountain is a metonym, metonymy, that you can talk about Washington as the government of the United States or State House, okay? Metonymy.
Yeah.
That's why I said that the mountain is beginning to walk that path, which is the correct path for this country.
Well, time will tell whether then it's a aspect of growth of democracy or it's the elusiveness that the gentleman would perhaps want to run away from. In 1 minute, your parting shots, sir.
Well, this one is to my brother Wafula Chebukati. That
I really wanted us to talk
that poorly organized and managed electoral system or poor management of an election can produce bad leadership, bad governance, poor management of the economy, and that can lead to chaos. It is your moment, Wafula. Take charge. Finally, to the people of Kenya, by not voting, you're not helping yourself. You're doing yourself a disservice. Please come out and vote in huge numbers. Zach and myself seem to be moving in the same direction. and we'll make sure that this country is properly governed for the next 5 years. Thank you.
Dr. Barak.
Thank you. Mine is to all of us, everybody, everyone, starting with this gentleman here, perhaps even starting with myself, that we have a country that we must carry beyond this election, and that no matter how much heat there has been and there continues to be in the contestation, we must remember that we have a country, and that this country is not just ours. This country belongs to our children, to the unborn, to future generations. And we don't want, as the present generation, to hand over our country to future generations like the country Siad Barre handed over to the people of Somalia 30 years ago. You go to Somalia today and it is wallowing in chaos. And these chaos were not created by the people who are there today who are 30 years old. They were created by people who were there before. So we must remember that. People who work in the media like ourselves, we must think seriously before we start screaming fire in a crowded theater. The making
of an
opaque election, prejudicing the country already against the election, against the electoral authority, and people saying already in advance that this thing was going to be chaotic. What is the alternative when you are creating this mood already? You are driving the country towards a disaster, and this country must avoid a disaster. As Barak, I'm prepared to accept the outcome of this election, whether it is won by Raila Odinga, William Ruto, David Mwaure Wahiga, or my brother Wajakoya.
Okay.
And I hope that Wajakoya is seeing me. If he becomes president, let them remember I'm trying to be chief minister.
As we close, Zach, and as you speak to the people.
There's a gentleman from a place called Gatiaini, on the slopes of the Abadeas, in a village called Gateway, called Peter Masharia. So say hi to Linda.
Oh, thank you.
From the depth of the mountain, some greetings arrive. Asante. He's been watching us every morning.
Yeah.
The word he has said is very important to pick it from there, that we have a country. The departed souls bequeathed it to us to possess. We owe the responsibility, as Kisia said, to have a country that we can bequeath also to the unborn. Because today we are here. We don't own the country, but we possess it. Possession and ownership is different. Yeah, yes. It is owned by the dead, it is owned by the living, and it is owned by the future generation, the unborn, as he put them rightly. Those who have the custodian of possessing it now, like you and I, because all of us now possess it in different areas. We are possessing it in the head of the media. We are possessing it in the various places. We are, myself, I am possessing this country in the political cloth. If we mess this is what we hand over. Those who messed Somalia bequeathed a dead country torn into pieces, and efforts are being made by those who possess it now to ensure that they do not, bequeath it again as torn as it is, as it was. Today, we are here this morning. We woke up very early so that we can come here and try to mend. Even if we may be pulling from different ends, we are still pulling in the same country. That this is what we think is right, this is what we think is right, this is what we think is right. In the end, the right shall prevail. And whoever becomes the president, this is what we are saying, we will help him. I have said that where I sit, I support the candidature of Raila Odinga to be president. If he wins, we are going to support him, ensure that he runs a country free of cartels and flawless as he desired. And let me tell you, if anything comes against him and delivering, we will crush it. In Parliament, I will not allow, because I am running as an MP for my area, Kegumo. As people come in between to mess Raila, we will hate him. We will hate them. If Ruto becomes president,
he must explain
okay?
how they will hit.
But there's no time, unfortunately.
We will hit the music.
Should we say story for another day?
Let me say this. If Ruto becomes president, the day he swears with the Bible, we will support him.
It's not the practical aspect. Okay.
Yeah, it's not hitting like whatever. I'm saying we will stand in between people who want to mess the presidents who will be sworn in.
Yeah.
And this is why I'm reminding my people of Kigumo to continue mobilizing in the village levels, the cells we have been creating for the last 1 year, to help me clinch the member of parliament for Kigumo. And I send my love to them.
All right. As always, we say all the best. I see they are literally taking, you know, the lawyers are known to do this, and now officially it's going to the Kikuyu side. Maneno ya kutuma salamu. Thank you so much.
Kutoka Nairobi.
Zach Kinuthia, a member of parliament, candidate of Kigumo constituency in Murang'a County, as well as Dr. Barak Muluka,